Alright, so we're talking about Icon from Milestone Comics. And originally he premiered in Icon number 1 of May of 1993. Now, before he became the character that we see before us, his name was Arnis of Terminus, and he was an alien, and on his way in a spacecraft it malfunctioned and eventually it landed on Earth. But this was in 1839, and slavery was very apparent. Now, to keep him safe, the artificial intelligence of the ship basically scanned the area to mimic any form of sentient life and turn Arnis of Terminus into that. That way he could blend in and wouldn't get hurt. And he came across a woman named Miriam, and she was a slave, and he basically took on the form of an African American. And Miriam took care of that little boy like he was her son. Alright, so previously we were talking about Augustus Freeman, aka Icon. Now, to continue with his origins, he didn't really age at all, right? His physiology and his longevity just outlived pretty much everyone that he ever loved and was ever with. But he did a lot of great things for Black history. But just to clarify, he wasn't a superhero yet during those times. And so that no one would really question his longevity, he would often pose as his son, which he didn't really have, in order to shift the generation forward. Now, by the 20th century, he was already posing as Augustus Freeman IV, his great-grandson. And what's really cool about Augustus Freeman is that, throughout time, he would utilize his powers in very small ways as an act of charity and just goodwill. And for a really long time, he didn't use his powers until one day his house was broken into by Raquel Irvin. Type in part 3 for more. Alright, so we're back with part 3 of Icon Origins. And these images are from the Milestone Returns current line for Icon and Rocket. But basically, we last left off with Raquel Irvin, who, with her crew, invaded his house and basically tried to vandalize and steal from him. Now, my boy Augustus Freeman was not having that and utilized his abilities and powers. And he was more scaring them off, but eventually he was able to. Now, just transitioning forward, him and Raquel Irvin were able to have, well, for lack of better words, a talk. A talk about his abilities, but a talk about the greater good and things that he could do in order to make the world a better place, or at least where they were. And she also reflected on the bad choices that she's made. And she pushed him to become a superhero named Icon. Type in part 4 for his powers. Alright, so we're back with Augustus Freeman, aka Icon, and speaking about his powers. So he does have a myriad of different abilities that include the following. Superhuman strength that allows him to lift 100 tons. Superhuman speeds, and he's immune to the speed that he's going at as well. Superhuman stamina and also reflexes, moving that he can move from point A to point B in a flash. He can also manipulate the gravitons and also the magnetic field to basically just fly. Now, Icon also has enhanced senses or superhuman senses that basically amplify all of the senses that we normally have, and he isn't bothered by the amplification. Now, Icon also has energy projection, and he can use it in a myriad of different ways to shoot out projectiles, but also he can enhance his punches as well. Not to mention, he can also create a force field from it. Now, we talked about this in a previous video, but he also has longevity. Hope you enjoyed.